So, a new doctor has come our way, and she is, well, a she. And that's awesome. Took him over 50 years, and let's face it, the men who portrayed the docs over the years have been pushing for it. The ones who weren't for it haven't completely bashed it. And since we live in a world of feminism, Doctor Who sought out the perfect opportunity to make the male lead into now a woman lead. Doctor Who has always been about change, and this was my show to help me along in such change. So I welcome it as wholeheartedly as Capaldi's speeches. But we don't know Jodie Whittaker yet as the official 13th Doctor, technically the second Doctor in the regeneration cycle. And yes, she is the second Doctor in the regeneration cycle. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, War Doctor makes 9, 9th Doctor makes 10, 10th Doctor makes 11th, 10th Doctor also regenerated into himself again, making him 12, 11th Doctor makes 13th, and the 12th Doctor makes the 14th, technically the first in regeneration cycle, and that also makes Jodie Whittaker the second Doctor in the second cycle. Even Moffat/Smith has explained this in his Christmas special.
I didn't call myself the Doctor during the Time War, but it was still a regeneration.
Okay, so you're number 12.
Well, number 10 once regenerated and kept the same face. I had vanity issues at the time.
So that makes Capaldi the first Doctor in the regeneration, Jodie Whittaker the second Doctor. Bam! You're welcome. For that, before we get to know Jodie Whittaker as the ever so amazing Doctor for the first time as a female, I decided to rank all the Doctors from worst to best, starting with the worst. Now, keep in mind, I don't exactly hate any incarnations of the Doctor. I had to do some research, watch thousands of hours worth of material just to come to a rough idea as to who I liked best, and to others that didn't do anything for me. So keep in mind, this list will not reflect your own. I know Tom Baker did it for so many people, but he may not make it to my top 5 or 3. I hope me and you, the viewer, is good. Are we good? Okay, let's get into the least favorite Doctor on my list. Number 13, the War Doctor. Okay, like I said earlier, I don't hate any of the performance nor the characteristics given, but the War Doctor was such a random surprise in the timeline of the Doctor that it became extra annoying having to explain this aspect to my friends. Yeah, he regenerates every time he dies into someone new. The rule is he can only do it 13 times. So far, we're on the 12th Doctor. Well, I'm gonna stop there because you've zoned out by now. John Hurt as the War Doctor is amazing. My problem is not enough was given to him for me to really feel for his incarnation. Moffat only wrote him for the specials, and it wasn't long after Capaldi's first season that the War Doctor was only mentioned once, and that was pretty much it. He felt like a throwaway, a nice little tiny secret to add conflict, but it didn't do much after Moffat made it a big deal. But John Hurt is likable and fun when he shows up, but it just doesn't do anything worth merit except for what we are told. Number 12, the 8th Doctor. I love Paul McGann as an actor, even more so since I realized that he was in the 1993 remake of The Three Musketeers, so I have nothing against him. But with one movie, a lot of radio shows, novels, and comics I know I need to get into, and a single YouTube skit.
4 minutes? That's ages. What if I get bored? I need a television, couple of books, any more but chess. Bring me knitting.
With the 8th Doctor showing up only to turn into the War Doctor, only angers me further that Moffat didn't change up the roles and make Paul McGann the incarnation 10 and 11 meet in terms of a regeneration period they regret. Maybe the 8th Doctor has a change of heart and got involved and hated the aspect of his life. That could have worked, not shoehorn in a whole new Doctor. But I digress. Number 11, the 6th Doctor. It's no surprise that the 6th Doctor always ends up on everyone's list at the bottom of the barrel. The only reason why he makes it third from the bottom is because I did see some charm in Colin Baker's performance, but the intent versus execution is extremely flawed. I watched an arrogant, bipolar, and dismissive, egotistical prick with seldom charm gallivant around arguing with his companion most of every episode, and the stories weren't all that great to boot. I really wanted to switch off every episode. I even did so in one of them called The Two Doctors, because at least I thought we were going to get the 2nd and 6th Doctor interact because, you know, 2nd Doctor is one of my favorites. You'll see where he ranks later, but it turned out to be one of the biggest disappointments I had seen this side of classic Who. Number 10, the 1st Doctor. Reaching this point in the ranking can be a little polarizing because I am placing him above the 6th Doctor. Is he really that bad? No. Not at all. But I didn't find the stories all that engaging, as there were many parts where the Doctor was primarily absent, and we were watching supporting and secondary characters do various things to move the plot along. And this was before Hartnell's deteriorating health. Yes, I know, he's the man who started it all, and being fourth from the bottom is actually not a bad position for him to be in. He just didn't do too much for me, but he did do enough. He gave one of the best goodbye speeches that is heavily inspiring for me.
One day, I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back.
His attitude and demeanor never bothered me, and I loved how he went from place to place with very little breaks in between his travels. Number 9. The Fifth Doctor. My feelings about the Fifth Doctor were decidedly mixed as I watched him. His regeneration episode was slow, but picked up pace once the story focused on stopping the Master towards the end. His last episode was top-notch, and very enjoyable, if not really intense. But he was too vulnerable and too lighthearted for my taste.
I'm definitely not the man I was.
But what I did enjoy was when the moments became impossible, we really see Peter Davidson's Doctor shine. Number 8. The Seventh Doctor. The reason why the Seventh Doctor ranks higher for me than the Fifth and the Sixth was because they weren't particularly my taste. Fifth Doctor was more subtle, sentimental alien from Gallifrey, and the Sixth was, of course, the polar opposite.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
So the watchability wavered for me, and I was nearly turned off by the prospect of finding out more. Then in steps Sylvester McCoy. And he was like a chaser after a really hefty meal course with some bad wine. The Seventh Doctor provided a return to form for me. I felt the show lost since Tom Baker's departure. I liked him well enough to put him here. Number 7. The 11th Doctor.
How can you be here?
Now you would think the most recent Doctor, apart from the 12th, would be higher on my list because of the quality of the stories were on point, more focused, involving and interesting, and you would be right for Matt Smith's Doctor. But while I feel Smith gives a top-notch performance, it took me a bit to warm up to him. Not because I was under the impression of the 10th Doctor's spell, mostly because I wasn't behind a sense of humor yet. The way he looked with that weird hairstyle, but it all grew on me. It was mostly the stories that left me scratching my brain. After his stellar 5th season, the 6th suffered from doing too much, and the 7th had a hell of a structure flaw, breaking up the season into 2 parts and leaving a Christmas special in between. It's the stories that really bring this Doctor down, but it's what keeps this Doctor up, as Matt Smith gives it his all in every episode right down to Time of the Doctor. Number 6. The 9th Doctor. Lasting only 1 season, he is yet again another Doctor short-lived. He was tough, vulnerable, angsty, sassy, and caring. He was within those emotions to convey a conflicted character whose action caused the death of 2 races. You feel the weight of Eccleston's performance, but sometimes the stories were just too cheesy for my taste. But for 1 season, he really left an impression. At first I didn't like him, but then he grew to be one of the most underrated Doctors we all know. He has a perfect story arc from beginning to end. He sends Doctor Who back on the map, and the stories reminded you of the classic Who time, to which I was not aware of at that time. But hindsight is 20/20 when doing ranking. I enjoyed this Doctor, and if he had just 1 more season, I feel he would have been higher on my list. Number 5. The 3rd Doctor.
Inflexible, you know. Could be useful on the planet Delphon, where they communicate with their eyebrows.
This was a different direction to see the Doctor in, as a suave, stern, fun, and interesting incarnation of the Doctor. With stories at its slow burn pace, Jon Pertwee ate up the time he was on screen, making you wish he was on screen more. Some stories weren't at its all-time greatest, like his episodes with the spiders. Not a favorite. But I really loved this cool James Bond-like scientist Doctor, especially since he took up the mantle after being labeled as the cosmic hobo or the elderly grandfather. Definitely one for the books. Number 4. In terms of irony, I know I forewarned you that this Doctor may not make it to my top 5, or 3. Instead, I decided to place him comically as number 4, as the 4th Doctor really charmed his way into my life, and of course, I would be doing myself and everyone a disservice if he wasn't somewhere on the top 5. Highly quotable, magnetic performance, iconic voice, longest running Doctor, and everyone, and I mean everyone, remembers him the most. People grew up with Tom Baker, and It's a shame I never did. Every story was a wonderful blend of great performances, interesting creatures, cheesy and adorable plots, with the effects leaving a lot to be desired, but this was a fun watch with the Fourth Doctor in the forefront. Number 3. I know what you're thinking. How on earth can any other Doctor be better than the Fourth? Making its way to the top of everyone's list, the Fourth Doctor is usually everyone's number 1. But no, not me, my dear Whovians. I am different and as honest as I can be. The Fourth Doctor can be your number 1 as he is my number 4. But the one Doctor that really made me smile and I wish to see more of, and I rather enjoyed his mini episodes, was the Second Doctor. Making more appearances in crossover specials due to the infamous wipes of the 60s causing missing episodes for the First and Second Doctors, the Second Doctor really had such an essence to his charm.
You see, Joe, I may call you Joe, mayn't I?
There was even a sort of glee to the unknown, making me wish I had that sort of temperament. The Second Doctor wasn't well received by most when he came out, but I look forward to seeing him after the First Doctor regenerated. Full of life and wit, he was awesome and so much fun to watch. With only 2 Doctors left, you see where this is going. But who is next? Is it the 10th Doctor or the 12th? Number 2 pick. The 10th Doctor.
You got a problem with that?
Before the 12th, I had a real respect for David Tennant. He is a fantastic actor, as is everyone on this list. But the 10th Doctor always kept a sense of hope in every situation. Strong ideals, making him the best Doctor to date. And I saw a lot of what I wanted to be in such a Doctor. I wanted to be fun, informative, charming, good-looking, and on top of everything I touch. Alas, I am not half of those things, but I do my best to enjoy what there is of life and what it throws at me. The 10th Doctor had some great storylines that were emotional, excellent in style and execution, with only one episode I could think of that was just plain old bad. Let's just say this Doctor had some considerable influence on my life, and I cried buckets when he departed. And the number 1 pick for my favorite Doctor of all time is, you guessed it, Peter Capaldi.
So there's this man, he has a time machine.
Say what you will. I understand you didn't see much in the writing and how they portrayed this Doctor as a crotchety old man with a time-traveling spaceship. But after a rocky start in his first season, we were given an on-point, exceptional season that is the 9th season, and I ate up every story from then on. And he also becomes a lot more hopeful.
Google it.
Capaldi's speeches were amazing.
I do what I do because it's right!
And spoke so much life and true-natured outlooks of good men, ideals, and why you bother doing good in the first place. The 12th Doctor brings a humbling groundedness to the character while being an alien at the same time.
I'm not flirting, by the way.
To me, he was the perfect blend, and was around in my life when things were extremely intense. Sentiment wins at the end of the day, and while he may not have done it for you, he did it for me in such fine style. This is why Peter Capaldi's 12th Doctor is my number 1 favorite Doctor. I would like to thank Downton654 for suggesting that I rank these Doctors. I really appreciate his patience as he asked me to do this quite a while ago. I would also love to thank anyone and everyone who watched this video. Please give it a like, share if you liked it well enough, and subscribe for more reviews, recaps, and a few rankings here and there. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, until next time.